sustainable energy, heat pumps, solar panels, all that sort of thing, and security. And then the far hall is the fun bit with home accessories and lifestyle exhibits. It's all, for some reason, with the mostly female attendance, the lifestyle section seems to be the busiest all the time. So please enjoy the show, and thank you so much for coming.
Good morning, everyone. You are so welcome here to the GFS Interiors Theatre. My name is Jo Linehan, and I'm the host here for the weekend. I get to be in the most beautiful setting with all of you. It's such a pleasure and a joy. I'm delighted to welcome our guest for our second talk of the weekend, and this is always a discussion that is so popular and that people get so much out of because it's so practical and it's so hands-on. I'm delighted to welcome Jenny Sheen and Kate O'Driscoll from the Rip It Up podcast. And the girls are literally renovation queens. Like, any question you have, they have the answer. Not to big you up or anything. We're going to have a really brilliant conversation all about how to stay on budget, on time, in style, and doing renovation. And both of my guests can speak from a lot of experience, which is great. We'll have time for questions at the end, so please don't be shy. This is your chance to dig into your expertise. But for now, let's give them another warm welcome, please, to Jenny and Kate. Welcome back, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Great to see you and great to have you back at the show. And I always think the autumn show is such a great time for people who want to renovate.
Yeah. It's a very kind of change, coming into a change type of year, isn't it? And like, summertime was so good, nobody was inside, were they? Nobody was thinking about their house, and now we're like stuck indoors, so it's very much renovation time.
Well, we have so much to discuss when it comes to renovations. But let's just start first by talking about both of you. How did you guys meet, and what brought you together to create Rip It Up? Give us the backstory, the lore.
Our worlds collided on multiple fronts, I would say. So like, both of us had an Instagram page off the back of Home of the Year. We were both on it the same year, but we actually had common friend groups, so we figured out at the final Home of the Year that we were both in the final. We didn't know before that. Jenny beat me, unfortunately, but both our Instagram accounts got quite big from then. I guess my background was kind of design engineering, and this was always my love, so it kind of was a natural progression. I left my day job and kind of did this full time. And then one day we were at dinner. I'll let Jenny speak for herself and her background as well, but one day we were at dinner and with the common friends that we had, and just yapping about home renovation and doing up houses, and they were like, oh my God, girls, you need to make this a podcast.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And like Kate said very generously that I beat her in Home of the Year. I did so fully with her advice. So like, anyone who's been through a renovation or doing up a house knows how valuable it is just to have that kind of person who's just a couple of steps ahead of you, as Kate was, like a few months ahead maybe in her own renovation. So I was like, where did you go for tiles? Where did you go for flooring? How did you decide about kitchens? And basically just took all of her advice and then ran away with it. But I think it's exactly that. We were just chatting over dinner, and it's just hard to find the advice, isn't it? Like, and you really have to have gone through it, and you need to be talking to somebody who's gone through it, as opposed to someone who's selling you that kitchen or selling you those tiles. And that's where, that was the genesis. That where we started. And we thought it'd be helpful to kind of chunk it up into the stages of the renovation, like what happens at the start, what happens when you're choosing windows, what happens, like what kind of questions do you need to be asking, and that's where it went.
And I think as well, we both came to the realization, like Jenny said, like that information was not out there, or if it was scattered, it was out of date, it was never in one place for kind of home renovators to access. So we felt like by breaking it down like that, it was kind of a chat between friends, our podcast, but also we were kind of educating the listener on the whole renovation process to kind of empower them to do it themselves.
Guys, anyone who listens to the podcast, you will not believe that they're giving away this information for free. But you're so right. Whenever you go into a project like this, there are so many mistakes that you'll just make, because most people who are doing renovation, it is their first rodeo. So you're wondering where to get the advice from. You do make mistakes, and I feel like you just cut through all the noise. And it's honestly, it should be like a public service, but what you guys do.
I did it.
You need your own show.
Any government sponsorship.
And literally, for anyone again who hasn't listened, there's an episode for everything that you're looking for in the process. But one of the things that I really want to hone in on, and is also one of the things that's listed in the name of this talk, is the budget. Because I feel like that's the foundation. Like, where do you start? How do you even make that budget? And then how do you make sure that the budget is going to work for you? Because I'm sure when you're renovating, there's surprise costs, there's missteps. So, not that you can solve it all for us right now, but what are the starting points for people?
And I'd love to throw it out to the audience, like show of hands, if you've been through it, did you have like a budget, did you have a spreadsheet or a tracker, or you did? Oh, well done.
Okay,
One prize, two prizes. Did everybody else just kind of wing it? Hope for the best, make sure you did, yeah, okay.
A lot of nodding heads, yeah.
Because, well, one thing I think is, I was quite regimented. I was a management consultant for like 14 years, so I have spreadsheets coming out my ears, and I put everything into a spreadsheet. I had, and I joke about this, but I'm serious, everything down to like my toilet roll holder, not quite the toilet roll, but I had, how much the architect was going to cost, how much the local property tax was going to be, like literally everything, because I was on a fixed budget and I didn't have the grand designs, this is going to cost another 40 grand, okay, I'll just get it from the money tree, it wasn't happening. So I was really regimented, and my approach was to write down, like get a quote for everything, find the cost of everything, put that in one column, and then have my wish list of like what I would really, the marble countertops versus the laminate floor or whatever. And then as I was going through and buying the items, I could track what I spent versus what I was going to get, which sounds great, but there's loads of work in that, and it's next to impossible to actually get a good view of costs. I don't know if you found that when you're renovating yourself, but like how much does the kitchen cost? How much does flooring cost? How much, how long is a piece of string? And it's quite difficult to get a straight answer. So that was my approach, but it's so important, obviously.
Yeah, similar approach to Jenny. I will admit that my husband is the list person in our house, but I definitely did partake. But I also thought that a really good way of looking at it was I always had a list of non-negotiables for me in my renovation, the things that I just wouldn't budge on. And for me, it was always kitchen. Like I'd always put my budget on kitchen, and I knew, what I had allocated for kitchen versus everything else. And then I knew, wow, look, I got that in clearance. So now I'm going to take it from that column and add it to something else. So I might save on tiles and then put it into flooring elsewhere or something like that. So it was about knowing your kind of non-negotiables, getting those set in your budget first, and seeing what you kind of have left over to kind of play between the other areas. But until you are clear, like these are my non-movers, these are the things, they're only a wish list, but I don't have to have them, I think you'll be nowhere in your budget.
And obviously you're on your second renovation project. Third. Oh my goodness. Third. So you're speaking from experience. But one of the things I'd love to ask you about is like you've been through this now 3 times. Prices really fluctuate, especially at the moment. So do you build in like a kind of a contingency for that? How do you kind of give yourself that little bit of a cushion, I suppose, if prices are going to go up and down?
I think you have to have a contingency fund, and if you're doing old houses like me, you absolutely have to have a contingency fund, because you'll find rotten joists, you'll find so much stuff. Some people find wells under their house, you will find stuff to spend that contingency on. So I'd always say a minimum of 10% contingency, possibly 15 if you're dealing with an old house. But I think building that in. What about your contingency?
Yeah, about 10%, and that well is true. It happened to my builder, that the house that he was doing before renovating my house, there was a bit of a delay because they were digging down into the basement and there was an undiscovered well, and no survey is going to show you that. That's just is what it is. So yeah, minimum 10%. You just have to. Yeah.
And then in terms of mistakes, because I'm sure people come to you with things that have gone wrong. What are some of the common mistakes people make when it comes to the budget? And I suppose how can people try and avoid them? I know there's going to be mistakes, you can't have a perfect budget or a perfect renovation, but are there some mistakes that come up that you think, okay, we can avoid that?
I'm going to say it's really important to spend the money on the non-sexy, non-visible stuff a lot of the time, because you can't retrospectively dig up your floors and put underfloor heating or take the paint off and put on insulation. So when you're doing a major renovation, you just have to soak it up that that's going to take so much of your budget, and you can upgrade your sofa down the road, you can upgrade your curtains from pack curtains to custom, but you can't dig up your floor and do that insulation and do that underfloor and do that structural bone stuff. So some people that I'm dealing with, clients, maybe have the regret of not doing that and maybe putting their budget into the kitchen, but I think it's a nonsensical approach because you want to dig it up.
And you can totally see how it happens. Like if you're up to your eyes in rubble and concrete and you just want that lovely moment, and then you're just going to splurge, but obviously you just have to be sensitive throughout the process.
It's kind of a visibility thing as well, because you go into a renovation thinking, I know what I want my kitchen to look like, I've found this beautiful couch, or I love this paint colour, and you've got this lovely idea of like what you want your house to look like and feel like. And then you get hit with things that you just don't know, because if you've never done a renovation before, those costs are not clear, the process is not clear, the timeline is not clear, and your money's gone really before you know why or where it's being spent. So I think with anything, it's planning, like it's planning, and then go from there.
Measure twice, cut once. Another thing that you mentioned in your talk's title, which I would love to talk about, is time. Because it must be so difficult to start a renovation and you think, right, I've got my timing set out, this is going to be done in 6 weeks, and then suddenly it's 8 weeks, 10 weeks. How can you, as someone who's project managing their own renovation, keep track of the time and try to keep things on track?
Very hard, and it's very hard in this climate because builders and construction people are just so busy. And one thing is for certain, once they're fully paid, it takes them a lot longer to come back. So I think that's one piece of advice, that you hold back part of payment, and that will happen anyway in major renovations, But just when you're tracking things, you have to get your long lead time things locked in early. So look at your kitchens, look at your custom flooring if you're doing something like that. You might be doing, I don't know, a very specific built-in furniture that you're reliant on joiners to come back and do. So know the things that are going to have the longest lead times and get those locked in, and try and get concrete, pardon the pun, dates from your construction or your contractor and when they need those by. Now they all say they need them by last week, but like drop dead, like when is the first fix happening? First fix being your electrical and plumbing first fix. So they'll need to know your radiator layouts and the pipe spacing and things like that. So try and get those drop dead dates from your contractor early on, so you can then work to your longer lead time things around that. And the last thing you want is everything arriving on site too early, because if you've lovely finishes on site, trust me, they're going to get damaged. So you only want what you need on site when you need on site. So get those dates, get them in writing multiple times, somewhere that you can hold them to them,
It sounds like it's a two-parter. You need the dates in them, but then you need to go and have your things ordered, have those choices. We've all seen those home renovation shows where people are running to pick out their bathroom finishings at the last minute. So I suppose it takes both parties to be organised.
Definitely. And one thing what's really important to know that is communication. Like it's really, if you pick somebody great from the outset, then you're golden, which is really hard because they're all up the walls and trying to get anyone at all is difficult. But if you're with somebody and the communication from the outset is good, they're getting back to you, they're clear, they're not waffling, they're not leading you down a garden path, then you're more likely to have kind of a smoother renovation that's going to finish on time and you can plan things. But Kate is totally right. I think one of our first episodes, maybe one of the first 3 or 4 episodes, is called The Renovation Process. That's really worth listening to if you haven't done it before, because it just tells you, what does first fix mean? What does second fix mean? When do I need to have my tiles done by? And just having that list of dates. Because like your contractor or your tradespeople, their day is like a game of Tetris. They're probably operating across a few different houses, and they kind of have to keep themselves busy because, some order's going to be delayed. Somebody's going to change their mind about something, and so they need to be able to jump to a different job. So if you're ready when they're ready, then things move a bit smoother and they move a bit quicker. And then there will still be delays because that's just life. So it's like your money contingency. You just have to bake in a time contingency mentally and know that it's going to go on a bit longer.
Well, both of you are extremely hands-on, and I feel like you do pretty much everything in the process yourselves. And are there times when you recommend people plug into experts, and then times when you think, no, we can do this on our own bat?
I'd always say if you're touching plumbing and electrics, just get in the experts. Just don't risk it. You might think you can tackle a bit of plumbing upstairs and then you have water coming through your ceilings. It's just not worth the hassle. For me, I love doing a bit of the DIY, and I always try little bits and see how I get on, and then I get a bit more confidence. I do a little bit more, like things like stripping my staircase. I could do it literally spindle by spindle. So I could do one spindle. If it got really, really bad, like I could just replace that spindle. It wasn't a big deal. So I think those kind of more superficial, labor-intensive stuff can actually end up saving you a lot of money, and it's something that you can't do too much damage, I guess.
Kate's definitely more hands-on than I am. I'm a little more, the superficial stuff I'm pretty confident tackling, but 100% agree, plumbing and electrics, walk away. It's not worth it unless you have the qualification, call somebody in. And I know how hard it is to get somebody, but call them in.
And I actually love your advice on even choosing the experts that you kind of gave a couple of questions ago, which is like that initial conversation with them, like you should be able to pick up on, are they communicating, are they coming back to me? Like, and if they're not, then that's a red flag. I guess that goes for any expert in the process.
Totally, especially, and that comes back to your budget again, because I know when you're looking at the start, you're like, maybe you're getting quotes back and you want to go for the cheapest one, but if that cheapest quote is somebody who has written like half a page of a quote and not a detailed, quote back to you, and if they're like, oh yeah, we can do this, we can do that, we can do the other thing, like they're promising you the world, that will be the most expensive at the end of the day for sure. So it's a working relationship and you have to treat it as such. Like communication is really important in this business, I think.
And I think as well, when you're choosing maybe your main contractor at the start, if you do the tender process, some people decide not to do the tender process and go straight with maybe one that their architect recommended or something like that. So if you're going through the tender process, it should be a red flag if one of the contractors is significantly cheaper than the rest. Like,
very
it
good
should
point.
be more or less the same, plus or minus 10, max 15% across them. And if someone is very cheap, the chances are there'll be variances by the end of that build that will add up to the other costs anyway. So it's just a real watch out for me, like to look at variances in price.
And agree to just ask the people and get a kind of a rough guide. Really amazing advice. That's why you're such a good podcast. I'm going to open up to some questions because I'm sure people have loads of questions. Does anyone want to ask about their own project or something they're working on? Don't be shy.
And if you are shy, we've left little cards at the end of some of the benches if you want to either follow the podcast or if you have any kind of renovation stories or headaches, because Jenny and I are working on something in the background to kind of help people through this renovation process. So any advice or any stories or tidbits that you have, please send
That's
over.
very exciting. To be at a launch stage, or can you tell us anything more? You're working on it.
What we're trying to gather, we're basically in discovery mode at the moment. Like we know that people need help. Obviously, like the popularity of the podcast is kind of proof of that. And there isn't really anything else out there. So we're trying to build something that's going to be a resource for people who are going through renovations. We're not exactly clear on how it's going to look yet. But we're in the process of getting it built. So we're hoping to have kind of an MVP early next year. And we can keep anyone updated on that. But I left cards around. I meant to bring a box for people to drop the cards in and I forgot. So if you are writing down questions or if you have any comments or anything, maybe just leave them at the side of the stage and I'll pick them up. Thanks a million. But yeah, it's really, we're just trying to figure out like, what would actually be helpful for people. Like what, like the number one question I have there is if you've been through it or you're early and you're just, you're buying the house or you're planning, like what has been the biggest headache? Like I don't know if anyone has a story on that.
We actually asked our listeners to the podcast, like, who found a renovation process stressful? And 85% of the listeners said they found it moderately to highly stressful. So, like, it's one of the most expensive and most stressful things you'll do in your life as a home renovation. And so, the penny dropped for us that, like, we absolutely have to have something to help people. And I think Jenny and I have all the background knowledge in this. We're trying to get some help on the tech side of it, so that's why I think it'll be early next year. But if you want to be part of it or want to be one of the early birds, absolutely drop us one of the cards.
When 85% of people say it's stressful and hard, but people do it multiple times. Like people catch some kind of crazy bug, so
people parachute jump, base jump as well. Like some people like the adrenaline and the pain.
So it's the girl on her third renovation, just to be clear, like.
So we're talking a lot about the things that go wrong, but obviously there must be those moments when it just comes together and it's magic. Do you both have maybe a memory from your own renovations when you thought this was worth every bit of heartache?
I think the whole thing is magic, and I think like there's people who renovate and who enjoy the process, and then there's people who want a turnkey house, and I completely understand that view. But there is no way to get something that is totally yours, that you feel proud of, that you can look around like every day when you live it and be like, I remember that decision, I remember finding that colour, I remember, you know, sourcing that piece, or when I saw that couch and I had to have my house around that. Like, for me, that is magic. It's so magic, and like, it is one of the most expensive things you'll ever do. It probably is one of the most stressful things you ever do. So it's having kids, so it's, you know, going for the job that you really want. Like, it's really making something yours, especially your home when you live in it. It's totally invaluable. So yeah, I guess we've been kind of talking about the hard side and the difficulty, but that's just because we want to help people do it, and we want to help people to have those homes and have those houses that they want. For me, my magic moment I'll never forget, because it's such a roller coaster, but it was plastering. It was when I came into the house and it had gone from, you know, plasterboard to wires sticking out to concrete floors, and I don't know why plasterers are not like the most vaunted members of our society, because it is a magic art, and it is an art. And something happened for me when I just came in and the walls were plastered, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is a house that's going to be a home. I can see it now. Just really found that part magic.
I can't say I share the excitement about plaster and dust, but I did have that moment recently, because I've only just finished my renovation. I'm just back into my house, and my 3-year-old pulled over a stool and she was cooking with me around our kitchen island, and we finally had like this lovely kitchen again, an open plan, and I could cook with the kids and I could watch the other one playing, and I was just like, oh my god, thankfully. Like, because the house that we lived in before that was just, oh my god, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare with little kids. It was just a warren of little rooms before we renovated, and that was my, like, it was worth it. This is our house now.
I feel like it's such a great time for you to be building this new offering, whatever it is, and to be talking about this, because whether you're adding on a kitchen, it's relevant, or if you're going for one of the derelict housing grants, like, it's such an exciting time for people to renovate, I feel.
And actually, speaking of which, those grants are really valuable. We just recorded a podcast with SEAI that should be out in the next few weeks, so you can check both our podcast sites and the SAI. But they have a new pilot grant coming out now, because they've recognised that, you know, doing up homes that have conservation liens on them, often you can't get to maybe a B2 or whatever you need to qualify for the grants. So there's way more information on grants coming in one of the upcoming episodes.
And that information is so valuable, because, you know, if you're starting out and you think, God, this is going to be massive, if you get the help from the grants, that can be a total game changer. Does anyone want to ask a question yet? We'll get you a mic down there.
Wondering, how do you pick a builder?
Great question. So I mean, there's two answers to that. One is the ideal answer in an ideal world where you have your choice of builders, and one is just the current situation where builders are out the door, especially popular ones. So I think recommendations are great if you're working with an architect in the first place and they have someone that they tend to work with. In my experience, that goes really well, because it is, as I said, a working relationship, and if a team has been established and formed and normed and all that kind of stuff, then it tends to go better. The second thing is, if you're going out to tender, you know, as we said before, it's the ones that are responsive, that are communicative, that come back with really detailed quotes, with detailed timelines, that are, you know, they're very busy, so they're not going to be back and forth to you all day, but that are open to, you know, your questions and are professional in their responses, then that's really good. And then I will say recommendations are great, but can be a hit or miss, so just make sure it is a good recommendation for someone you trust.
I also think QSs are worth their weight in gold. They'll end up saving you money at the end of the process, and so I think having a QS on board to get your bill of quantities done earlier, to get more accurate quotes if you go to tender and you go to a few builders. But like Jenny said early on, like, this is a relationship that's going to be, you're going to meet them a lot in 6 to 12 months. So make sure you like them, like, meet them and have a coffee with them and walk the house and go through the plans and talk about their experience, and make sure that they've done a building like yours before. If it's an old house, make sure they've experienced in old houses. If it's a modern build and you want the A rating, make sure they've experienced in that, you know. So pick a builder to suit your project and your personality is all I'd say.
Great question. Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to ask? Okay, we'll get to you in a second. Just say you first.
Hi there, ladies. Can you give us your best tips on renovating a kitchen dining space? Like, what would you recommend?
This is our favorite topic. We both are kitchen mad. I'm mad about baking. Kate is as well, and also cooking, and so is her husband. So kitchens are, I think, our number one favorite topic, and we think we just did our third. fourth, maybe. We've done like 2 on kitchens, kitchen appliances, kitchen countertops. We love it. So number one, and I'll hand to Kate, 'cause we're probably similar on this, is how are you using it? So forget the images for a minute, forget the colour. You can worry about that at the very, very end. But how are you using the kitchen? Like really sit down and even try to find like a questionnaire or something online and think about, do you cook roasts or do you just fry more often? Like, are you somebody that needs to store lots of Tupperware because you're meal prepping out the wazoo, or like, are you, do you host people a lot? Like, how many people are coming through the kitchen? Are you in there cooking on your own a lot or not? And really be honest with yourself about how you are using that space day to day. Not how you'd like to use it, not how it's going to look when it's like perfect and tidy and everything, but like, how are you using it? How is your family using it? What is the, it's like an ergonomic approach, like how that's going to be, and then go through that and think about what does that mean for, do I need a double oven? Do I just need a combi microwave oven? Do I need loads and loads of countertop space because I'm rolling out, pizza dough or whatever it might be? Or do I not really need that much? Like, do I not need a huge fridge freezer? Do I not store that much in the fridge freezer? I think it's just tempting to think, this looks great, I should get that. That's the latest and greatest, I should get that. But really, and especially as well with modern appliances, like they do everything. There's ones out there now that literally, like I just wrote a piece about this for the Examiner. It's like the Jetsons kitchen. If anyone remembers the Jetsons, you just press a button and a home cooked meal arrives. But they do everything. You don't need a million appliances anymore. You don't need a million utensils anymore. So if you put that planning into it, then you can really, really think about your kitchen working for you, and that will look different to everybody. That might mean loads of storage and minimal countertop space. It might mean 3 freezers. It might mean, no overhead cabinets, which is my favorite thing. But, that's really, really important. And then think about materials. So our latest episode that was out this Thursday was about countertop materials, from laminate to quartz to granite, quartzite to whatever works for you. It's different for everyone. Same with the flooring. Like if, do tiles work for you? Do you love that through look? Do you want it to look really, really open? It's breaking it down that way, and then once that is all planned and finalised, then you can think about what colour do you like and what, lighting, and don't forget lighting.
I agree with absolutely everything she said. One thing I will add is have a space for mess, whether it's a big deep drawer somewhere. Every kitchen has mess. If you have toddlers, you probably have a million colourful lunch boxes and bottles or something, and you want them out of sight. I built in a little nook where my high units wrap around the corner, and my air fryer's in there, my toaster's in there, and a load of spices and oils are in there, so they're not out in shows. So then I have a big long open shelf which only has my nice things on it. So it gives the visual appeal when you come in. It looks tidy, it looks organised, and the Tupperware, to Jenny's point, is away. So have those little spaces for mess and smart storage. I would say drawers. Nothing, no cabinets you have to be reaching into the back of is another key point, I think, for kitchens.
Really good advice. Thank you so much. We have a question. This lady in the orange coat up here.
I like the way you said orange. I think it's orange too. I think it's orange too.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. So I've been contemplating a renovation, like you said, because I really think the individual choices you can make when you do that, rather than what you've bought and you've adjusted to somebody else's plan, is my dream. But currently, with houses that are in very bad condition, the prices are so high, but it doesn't seem to take in any account the amount that it's going to cost to do it up, because then you're looking at the overall cost that you put into it, and it's more than you'd ever sell it for at the end of the day. Now, at my age, I'd still choose that option because it's my home. But what's your opinion on that? Because I was told recently when I was looking at a property that I would love to renovate, but I wouldn't see a builder in sight for less than 500,000 to do any renovation work.
I would tend to agree that there isn't much money in flipping houses at the moment. Building costs are just too high at the moment. Unless you're absolutely maxing out in every grant you can get, you might get some value. So I think it's true, but I also think you have to kind of go with what you want. So to advise on that, I would have your absolute non-negotiables. For me, when I moved, we had literally just finished a renovation, then a house came up around the corner. People were like, "You're mental, you're pregnant, why are you doing this again?" So for me it was, we had an office, we had a south-facing garden in this new place, and it was, even though it was a small house, it was detached, which was very rare in the area I'm in. So like, those were the things that were worth it for me, and I think even though the build costs are expensive, if we ever sold those houses, I think those are attributes that would really sell the house for itself. So I think having those kind of key things that are valuable to you, but also valuable to a seller down the line, I think might actually push you over the edge to be kind of, you know, in the green, we'll say, after a renovation.
I think as well, you're right, flipping it, it's just not worth it, it's too expensive, but
It's not even for flipping it, it's just
Oh,
the
just for
actual
renovation,
value that you feel.
Yeah.
Even if I gave
Yeah.
it to my children, would I have lost on it? You know, it's because
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about that, I'm thinking about my retirement.
I don't know if you'll ever lose on property really in Ireland. I think if you, as Kate said, if you're looking at some key things that are always going to be valuable to the market, then it's worth investing in it. Especially in the long term, like it's just a constant upward trend, even if it's, you know, a bit jiggly. The market at the moment, I don't know if I'm being right in saying to hold off for a little bit, but I know that the market at the moment, the houses that need renovation are not moving as fast as turnkey houses, because the market has become aware that renovation costs are so high. Everyone who's queuing for those homes is being told that you're not going to get a builder, even if you do get one from 500 grand, you're not going to get one in the next year, you're not going to get it done in the next God knows how many years. So it is slowing at that section of the market. So it could be that you're coming into a good time if patience is a virtue that you possess, but aside from that, it's just really expensive. It's just really expensive.
It definitely, as the girls said, like do lots of research on the grants. There's so many grants there, and if you're someone really clever who can help you maybe get all of them, it might just make it worth your while. I'm with you, like there's nothing like having a renovated home. Once you go into a new build, like new builds are great and everything, but if you have that urge to do it, I say just go for it.
And just one last question: do you follow people's journey? Are you a bit like the new Dermot Bannon, where you touch base, or where you would actually, while you're advising people on your podcast, have you adopted any people who are working on projects?
Well, we both do kind of consults for people, so I've stayed with clients for a couple of years, probably through this process. But then I love following other house accounts that show the kind of, you know, nuts and bolts of it. The people who are really, like, one of my most aspirational Instagram accounts that we had her on the podcast is Grania Gillette. Like, it is the most true renovation account you will come across. You know, she got her hands dirty, she insulated her floor herself. She came across every eventuality you could possibly come across in a house, but she got through it and she has an amazing house at the end. Yeah, it was a slog, but I think watching people like that, that's the true story of renovation, but also what you got out of it was so worth it.
We got an email the other day to our email address, and it was somebody who had listened to every podcast. She actually sent us a voicemail, it was so nice. She'd listened to every episode, had done up her house, and then had started documenting it herself on her own Instagram, and shared all of that, and was like, you know, this is since I started listening to you. I actually cried nearly reading that, because it was just so nice to see somebody get the house that they wanted and know that you had a tiny bit to play in it. It was lovely. So yeah, I love it. There's nothing better than seeing someone's success.
It is so nice to be able to follow people and see how like you need that inspiration, I'm sure, on the down times to see that people have done it and done it well. We have time for one more question. Is that it? Oh yeah, this lady here.
Hi, I'm just wondering what flooring you find the best with underfloor heating. We're in the middle of renovation, and no matter where I go, they tell me that they have the best flooring, and I'm just getting confused.
Yeah. So there's lots of factors in flooring. My flooring is LVT, it's Moduleo luxury vinyl tile. Some people throw up at that because it's basically what lino used to be, but it's come a long way and it's fabulous now. That is brilliant for underfloor heating. It's basically bulletproof, it looks really realistic. The things you can't have are wood, solid wood. Carpet is just going to negate the effect pretty much completely. And not all laminates will work well depending on the underlay and what they're made of. Most other things are going to work very well. There's loads of engineered wood that works very well. Tile obviously works really nicely as well if you're doing it in a bathroom. And then in a bedroom. Yeah. For a bedroom, I would have either a really good engineered wood that is said to work for, or I would have the vinyl tile.
So I have underfloor and I have lots of different flooring and downstairs in my house. We have engineered wood, heats up faster. We have an insulated slab underneath it, so an insulated concrete floor underneath it, which means the heat doesn't go that way, it's only coming up, so the heat gets into the house quite quickly. We also have limestone flooring in a lot of the rest of the house, which is a thicker stone tile, slower to heat up, but holds the heat and radiates the heat once the heat goes off. So think of like big stone tiles as a storage heater in your house, and then think of the wood floor will be like a radiator. It'll give you the more blast of heat versus the slow release of heat. It's about 18 millimeters, I think, more or less. Most of them are in or around that, I would say. And just think, when you're looking at engineered floors, usually they have a plywood backing, and then the solid wood section is between maybe 4 and 8 mil, depending on how expensive the engineered floor is. Try not to go for the thinnest engineered floor, as in the thinnest solid layer, because you won't even get a sand out of it, and you'll nearly be down to the plywood. So you want 4 mil plus of the solid wood on top.
Guys, thank you so much for all your amazing questions, and guys, thanks for being here. Before we go, where can people follow you? Where can they get your expertise if they want to maybe plug into your consultations?
Yeah, so you can find us on, if you scan that, or if you go to Rip It Up, the Renovations podcast, it's on all the podcast platforms. And then in the show notes of any episode, you'll be able to see an email address where you can email both of us. You'll find both of our Instagram handles, and through that you can book with us if you want to. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any more questions, let us know.
Guys, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Nice to meet you.